I guess it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that I have a disability. My disability is very visible and physical. It's the first thing that someone will notice about me because I'm in a wheelchair and it can't be more obvious than that. One thing that people may not necessarily just know about me just by looking at me is that I am Christian. I'm a believer. I'm a person of faith. Maybe those who know me personally or those who have been following me for quite some time, either on social media or maybe people who know me in real life would know that I am a believer. But one thing that I realized is that as soon as people know that I am a believer, they are fascinated by how I handle that with my disability. Because let's face it, the Christian community and disability, I don't know if it's just an African thing. There is a bit of a mismatch that happens sometimes. I have discovered throughout from my interactions with people from various walks of life that for some people it's difficult for them to compute the fact that I can be a believer who believes 100% in God and in God's healing power and in His miraculous power, and yet I am someone who has a disability as serious as the one that I have. For a lot of people, they struggle to understand how I am able to be confident in my faith and just keep on believing and not lose heart and just keep on trusting in God, not necessarily for a miracle, but just that He loves me, whether I'm disabled or not. I thought I would just make a video just explaining a few things about my relationship with God with regards to my disability. So I understood that I was disabled from a very young age. I think I was about 4. That's when I started to fully understand that no, I may be a little bit different. And that was mostly brought about by the fact that my peers were going to school and I wasn't. I still had a lot of things that I needed to learn. I just couldn't up and go to school like them. They were looking for very specialized schools for me, for the disabled. Somewhere where I could be accommodated, where my needs could be accommodated. But as a kid, I never really gave it much thought, but that is when I began to understand that I'm a little bit different. I already had a God consciousness at that age because I used to go to church, but of course, being 4 or 5, I didn't have that full understanding of what it really means to have a relationship with God. But I believe that God communicated with me because I had a dream when I was about 5 years old where God was speaking to me about my disability. From that moment, I just had some kind of comfort. Yes, I was very young, but that dream had a very huge impact on me. Whenever I was praying or whenever I felt a little bit discouraged, I always knew that at the end of the day, God is my Father and I am loved and I'm well looked after whether I have a disability or not. I learned from a very young age that my value, my worth was not in my physical body or my physical abilities. And I just thank God for that because it has really sustained me through the years. I'm not going to say that it was very easy or like everything was just all roses. No, it wasn't. No matter how much I was strong or how much I encouraged myself in the Lord or I was confident, sometimes society just had a way of rudely reminding me of the physical limitations that I have in my body. I went through so many struggles. When I eventually started going to school, the teachers wouldn't have me in their classes. They were worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up and stuff like that, even though they were assured over and over again by the professionals I was working with that I was mentally just as competent, if not more than my peers or my age mates at that time. They had a lot of reservations. Some of it had to do with stigma. People were just not comfortable. And I still have memories of people having meetings and discussing you, and you're right there, and they're like, no, I don't want him in my class. He will make the other students uncomfortable, and so on and so forth. It was just a mess. But I thank God eventually I had a teacher who accepted me, and I got into a class, and the rest was history from then. God came through for me, but that didn't mean that I wasn't left with some scars. And that was from school. I was outperforming most of my classmates. I was doing really well in my academic studies, even the extracurricular activities that I was partaking in. I was really good, I was confident, I had a thing for the academics, so there were no challenges there. I was outperforming most of my classmates. I would always be in the top three, the top two, stuff like that. But that didn't mean that people started believing in my abilities or something. I even had weird people come up to me and ask me, do they just mark everything correct so that you feel good? How ridiculous is that? Believe it or not, even when I went to university, there was actually someone who asked a friend of mine that I was in the same class with, do they just mark everything right so that you can be with? And I'm like, what? Is this kindergarten? No. I am studying for my honors just like anybody else here. And it's just crazy the kind of misconceptions and assumptions that people have around people with disabilities sometimes. There's a tendency to think that if someone has a physical disability, it also means that mentally they also have some challenges as well, which is not always the case. Sometimes it is, but it's not always the case. Spiritually, of course, there were people who always felt like I am not like a complete Christian because I have a disability. But like I don't really represent Christ. If Christ loves you, then why are you disabled? Why are you not walking like everybody else? There was also a lot of pressure for me to receive healing from church, especially back when I was young. I remember there were times when I dreaded going to church because every service would be me being dragged to the altar call, being prayed on, people laying hands on you, people shaking you and asking, do you feel anything? Do you feel the power? Now, there was just a lot of immaturity going on back then, and it was terrible for me because at some point I ended up feeling like there is something wrong with me, and I was feeling like if God really loves me, then why am I in this situation? Which added a lot of pressure to me. I used to fast a lot, I used to pray a lot, and all my prayers were just about asking God to raise me from this wheelchair because I felt like if I wasn't walking, then the people who said there was something wrong with me were probably right, which I know now is not the case. I am fearfully and wonderfully made in God's express image, and I know that God loves me, and I know that I'm so much more than just my disability. Can I wake up walking tomorrow? Absolutely. If He decides to let that be my portion, then that will definitely happen. But one thing that I ended up deciding that I wasn't gonna do is live my life just looking forward to a miracle, because then if it doesn't happen, then I'm gonna die a very bitter person because God didn't raise me from the wheelchair. So I made a decision, thanks to the people that I later met on, my pastors and mentors, who taught me that I need to have a relationship with God that is not dependent upon His ability to heal me. So now, whether I am healed or not, or I remain in this wheelchair till the day I die, I have decided that my relationship with God is not going to be about that. And the day that I took that stance and gravitated towards that, my life changed so much. That depression, that anxiety that came with that pressure fell off me, and it was like a huge burden had been lifted off my shoulders. I am not saying there is anything wrong with praying a lot or reading the word or meditating. All those good things, they are really good if you are doing them for the right reasons. I wasn't doing them for the right reasons. I was doing them because I thought that my own goodness, my own effort, my own ability would move God into raising me from the wheelchair, which, trust me, it didn't work. I did my best. It didn't work. And not something that I'm doing so that I think that I can impress God. Prayer and fasting and reading the word is not bad if you are doing it for the right reasons. But now, whenever I do it, it's because I want to strengthen and deepen my relationship with God, and because I know that the Word sustains me. I do it for the right reasons. I'm no longer pressured by the fact that, oh, let me read, let me pray so that God can heal me. My relationship with God had to change and had to deepen. It didn't have to be, I'm going to pray so that you give me this. It was, I I pray and I believe in you and I love you and I read your word because I believe you are God and I want to have a relationship with you and I love you and I know that my purpose on earth is to worship you. So yeah, but that doesn't mean that life is perfect. Being physically disabled is very challenging. Trust me, a physical disability has a way of humbling you that is just so unbelievable, especially with mine because I have to rely on other people for care. And you will learn that the person that you can only depend on and the person that you can only count on is God. And man, like the dark times are there. I'm not gonna lie about that. Sometimes it's very challenging. It's very depressing. It's trying. There is a reason why people with disabilities are some of the most depressed groups in the world. Depression just kicks you in the it's serious. It's serious when it comes to depression and the anxiety that comes with having a physical disability, the worries, the concerns, the physical challenges, the health, because sometimes your health is also at risk. It's very fragile. Like mine is just a lot. But I just want to thank God for sustaining me through the years, and without Him, I don't think I would have been able to do this. Even the things that I've been able to accomplish, which is not much, but I am grateful that I've made something out of my life. I'm very grateful for that. And I know that it can only be by the grace of God. So instead of being angry at God, which I was for some years, after those days when I was saying that I was praying and fasting and thinking that I was going to move God, when I didn't get my miracle, when I didn't wake up walking one day, I was very angry with God. I was very angry, very bitter, and I thought God doesn't love me. I was very discouraged and my faith was shaken, but I just want to thank God that I was able to bounce back from it because of His grace. So when people ask me, how are you a Christian? If you have a disability, I'll say one thing. I am more than just my disability. I am much more than just my physical body. There is the real Aaron who is inside. The real Aaron who is going to have to be accountable for the way I lived my life. I'm not going to say one day before the Lord that, oh, I was angry and I was bitter and I didn't serve you because you didn't make me walk, so I gave up on everything in life, and I'm not gonna live miserably because I'm in a wheelchair. So I just want to thank God for that, for His strength and for the courage that He gives me, for the encouragement, for His love, for His protection, for His provision. Because of Him, I am able to handle having a disability. So next time you wonder about how I am a believer yet I have a disability, I hope you have a better view of where I am coming from. If you want to know more details about what it was really like growing up with a disability or how my Christianity was affected by having a disability, I will link 2 videos in the description box and they will tell you more about what it was like.